All right, so this is the wrap up. So let's just do a summary of the submission. This is just very brief. We wanted to hammer home key points. You need to know that end of year 4 requires 3 files. That's your special education program file, that's your student services file, and your post-secondary status file. Again, post-secondary only for students with disabilities. The expectation is that your students with disabilities data is updated throughout the year. It's on an ongoing basis. As means occur or amendments happen, that information we would hope is coming to CalPADS in a timely manner. If not, you want to make sure that you update your records now going into the certification or the data collection for end of year 4. Also, end of year 4 is different from fall 1 because there's no census days. So again, we're looking at records throughout the entire academic year. Those that submit special education data have been doing post-secondary survey for years, right? And so this is not new to them, but it's just, we want to be clear, these are not for students in transition services, right? These are students who have left the previous academic year. There is no subsequent enrollment, right? So they're just completely done with secondary education. And so this is end of year 4, RNC. We've moved this slide to talk about the training sequence in because we could kind of help you plan future trainings, right? And so if you are a SEDS data coordinator, it may be beneficial to go to end of year 3 as well, because there's discipline data that's pertinent to students with disabilities that you should be reviewing, and your SELPA is going to have to certify into year 3. So that's into year 3 and 4 require SELPA certification. And if you ever want a quick review, if this is just too much detail and you know it, into year 4 is currently being presented, and that hour to a 45-minute long training. It's really high level. This change, this change, this change. This is what you should know. Very quick. Martha or Slyman typically do it. And there's other training. So if you ever want to request a training for your county office of education, here's kind of a map of the different trainings we offer. All right, so these are the suggested milestones. Of course, I encourage you to make your own timeline. That's all of them. Okay, so right now, snapshots are running. You can be uploading data for end of year 4 or any of the end of year submissions as you see fit. We have recommended sequences sometimes, end of year 2, end of year 4, end of year 1. We like you to do end of year 3 last, or at least do end of year 3 second to last, just so that the students with disability data is finalized before you're looking at your cumulative enrollment and then your cohort with their graduation data, right? However you manage to submit your data and certify it is totally dependent onto your abilities and your needs, right? And so make your own timeline. Just make sure that you meet the submission deadlines. 7:30 is going to be the initial deadline. That just is LEA approval. And again, the greatest value in this is you're setting yourself up for success going into the next reporting year. Ultimately, SELPA approval is needed for end of year 4, end of year 3 on August 28th. And you also must certify in the year 1 and 2, but that doesn't have anything to do with students with disabilities specifically or SELPAs, okay? And then I would like to prematurely offer congratulations. Hopefully I'll be on vacation. We'll see how that goes. And then you have your resources. Kyron did a good job about talking about and showing all of these different resources. It's very important to develop a referential knowledge of not just where the data is, but how to use these resources to maximize your time. About the different shortcuts he was using. Sometimes he didn't explain why he uses them. The more you use them, you would develop those shortcuts, but coming to training, you can learn them and you don't have to develop them over time. There's different ways to contact us. I'm only going to talk about 2. The web form at the top, that's the fastest way to get tickets submitted directly to the queue. That ASPX web link goes directly to our service desk. The email and the phone get transcribed and they're put in the queue. Eventually they make it to the service desk application. There's just not direct. They have to go through our probably a SharePoint server or something. It takes a while. And then your listserv. This is the FigMat CSIS listserv. it's a very good resource to talk to other LEAs who are experiencing the same thing you are. Perhaps they have the same special education system and student information system, and the nuances of submitting data might be something that they can share with you, or if there's a bug or a trouble, they can share that information. You guys can go back and forth. In addition to the CSIS listserv, it's very much in your best interest to sign up for the CalPADS listserv. If you're a SEDS data coordinator, I suggest you sign up for it as well. Students with disabilities have become such an integral part of the data collection for Fall 1 and end of year. It seems like at least half the flash messages that go out have information regarding data for students with disabilities or specific to data with students with disabilities. It's just a good way to know what's coming up, what the expectation, even if it's just certification information. All right, and so I'm going to humbly, the only time I've ever been humble, but I want you to please submit a survey. The surveys are very important. It helps us kind of create training that's relevant or update training as needed. When we really create training for the audience, right? It's not, as much as I like to hear myself talk, it's not for me, I promise you. And so if you could just, tell us what you appreciated, tell us what you didn't appreciate, what we should add more of, what we should take out, whatever you have your thoughts on about today's training, just ask for you to share it. It doesn't take long, I promise. Okay, I can't promise because I've never done the survey. I just read them, but I don't think it takes long. And then probably most importantly, we thank you for your hard work. We thank you for your attendance today. This concludes end of year 4. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat box and we will try to tag team to answer them. Thank you.
Marshall has a good job. So
Okay.
as I was saying, Marshall does a good job with the YouTube channel. It makes things easier for you to find. So on every video, it has table of contents. So, it gives out all the key points that you should be aware of. You could do a control F and see all of those sections of each of those videos. So it's easy to search. And yeah, go ahead, Marshall.
Oh, you can also point out the 3 ellipses on the side, bring that down there. You can open the transcript. When you open that transcript, it gives a complete transcript of whatever's been said. It's not perfect because AI is not perfect. So until we get to the point where we can do it faster, this is there for you as a side resource. You can find out what you're looking for through there. By clicking on it, it takes you right to that, and you can actually do a search within there to find one-word content close to the subject that you're looking for, and that will get you in the area to get there. And then, like all YouTube stuff, you just right click and say send from this point and send it to whoever you're trying to get the information to. That's one resource that you can actually use too also. Okay, Kyron and Nate, we are at 11:41. Are there more questions?
So Mario mentioned about just a suggestion. He said, this is my first year with CalPAS and I struggle with the timeline and what I should work on first and so on. What should we be reporting now since my school is still in session? So if you go to the user manual, and we normally have a roadmap appropriate to the submission you're at. So clicking on this should give you, just a summary of your submissions, what needs to be submitted for the current reporting period. Please go to this. And if you have additional questions, then you can just send in a service ticket and we would gladly walk you through additional information that you needed.
And
So, yeah.
just as a shortcut, Mario, school's still in session. And so probably you can do and complete end of year 2 now. It's just program participation. It's specific programs. There's a YouTube video that talks about it. You have the CalPADS user manual, the data guide, so on and so forth. but the YouTube video probably will shortcut it for you. The reason why it can be completed first probably is students probably most likely have been identified for their program. They're participating in them now. You can update those records because they're just program records. It should be ongoing throughout the year anyway. You can verify your report counts. You could check off anything you need to do. There's one error, cert 97, that usually will trigger and stumble people. You can resolve that error if it's affecting you. You can do all that now, and you don't have to wait for students to finish grades. You don't have to wait for the entire academic year to be done for attendance. You don't have to, you can submit that and complete that first. And it's generally fairly easy because you do program submission for fall one. You should be submitting programs throughout the year. You may not need to do anything if you've been submitting it ongoing. You may just need to be reviewing reports and confirming count. So end of year two is generally pretty low maintenance. It's a good way to get your feet wet if you're new with end of year. Certainly you don't want to waste time. You want to collaborate with your SEDS coordinator if that's not you for end of year four. It's really contingent on the information you have and the people you have available. People who are advanced submit all these files now, even though they know they're going to have to submit them again, because like for the stats, if your school year hasn't ended, you have to account for the entire year up to the last day. So you might just be submitting it again, but they're comfortable doing that because they've done this and been successful for several years. So like Kyron said, if you submit a ticket in, say you're new, say you need help with end of year, someone will reach out to you.
That's true.
Also, I'm sharing the screen some considerations with regards to submissions. As Nate mentioned, end of year two is the easiest because you already have the data in. At this point, maybe there won't be any other students entering your school now, so all of your program reporting is set. So this is the first thing that you could accomplish, certifying. So the submission order can always be, you can simultaneously submit all the data in CalPads. Just make sure that for each submission, you have an order for each submission, but you can submit data for end of year two, data for end of year three, end of year four at the same time. But with regards to the certification and approval, this is the recommended thing, especially the last two. This should be followed, 4 and 3, because 3 requires you exiting your students, and you can exit your students before, if everyone hasn't finished school yet. So that's the last thing. And then, of course, you have to ascertain that all students that are SPED are accounted for before closing out the year for submission. You're welcome. Did we miss? Do we have any other questions at the top? Oh, okay. So with regards to the listserv, if you're having issues with any of the listservs, please send in a ticket for the CC's listserv. Send in a service ticket on the CC service desk. For CalPads listserv, send in a ticket to CalPads. And sometimes we could forward that to CalPads, and they could be an issue on their end, or it's just a matter of resubscribing.
All right. Thank you, Marshall. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you, Kyron and Alex, as always.